All right. Hello and welcome once again to Beyond the Physical Summit. We are here with Dr. Erin. She is soon to be dear friend of mine, but connection here in my local hometown. Dr. Erin is known as the success psychologist. She's an award-winning international speaker and training for high performance sales and business strategist. She's a founder of the Higher Life podcast and host, and 7 times #1 best-selling author. I absolutely love this. So she's also been awarded with Nevada's Professional Saleswoman of the Year and one of Nevada's top 20 most powerful women. She loves coaching individuals and organizations to be the best and has worked with companies including Facebook and Microsoft. Dr. Erin was named one of the 125 leaders globally to follow in 2022 by Success Magazine. She lives here in Reno, Nevada with her husband Garth and 3 children. So, Erin, what an introduction. I'm so honored to have you here. Thank you for being here.
I am the honored one. Thank you for doing this. Hello, everyone that's listening. We are so glad you're here. I can't wait to meet you in person.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, so let's dive into it because we had some conversations before jumping into this. And one of the things that I absolutely loved learning about you and your own journey is how you've been such a powerful influence in the world of psychology and bringing psychology into business, which is something that we have a parallel there because I'm bringing spirituality into business. So what has been the most, like, I would say, profound thing that you would like to share in the awareness of human psychology in business? What is like the most successful trait that you see in people in that way?
Beautiful question. I've heard from different mentors at different times, different ideas about what business really is. But if you're in business, you're in the business of humans and seeing humans. Sitara and I live by the beautiful Lake Tahoe, and one year, and Lake Tahoe's huge. And one year we were up there visiting friends, and our little son, Zachary, looked through this big telescope, and across the lake, there was a boat. And he exclaimed, "I see humans." And it was then that I realized, how did this psychologist go and become the saleswoman of the year in a year? And it's because I see humans. I had gone on 213 coffee dates. And I don't say that because it's duplicatable or it's anything. I didn't have a strategy around it. I just did what I know how to do as a psychologist, which is see humans. And I think that ability to actually figure out the psychology of the buyer, the seller, the organization, the employee, it's not complicated. Whenever I work with a company, they always say the same thing, like they own this concept, which I think is kind of adorable. They say things like, "Dr. Erin, I just want you to know we're in the relationship business." And I say, "Oh, okay, good to know." Like, we're not all in the business of relationships, right? And so I look back now and I'm like, it kind of makes perfect sense that someone who's an expert in psychology would be an expert at sales, at storytelling, because my job is just, questions are the answers. So my training has just been in basically how to ask really good questions. It's my superpower. I mean, I can go into an organization, I can ask the one question that they're like, "Oh," and so it's knowing how to do that I think has been probably the biggest shift. Yeah.
That is huge. And I'm so glad that you've articulated this so quick because that's actually one theme that I've specifically been talking with my clients and students about in the last couple of weeks is that knowing how to ask the right questions can literally open a doorway into something that you would have never experienced before if you didn't ask the right question. She's not Dr. Dolores Cannon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her work. She wrote about over 70 books in her lifetime, and she developed a process of hypnosis called quantum healing hypnotherapy, QHHT. And it was a method that brings people what she would call into the super conscious, because she didn't have a name for it, that would bring them into the super conscious, which goes beyond the conscious mind and into a space where she was communicating with their higher self or their guides or their masters. And she it was one of the themes that was so important that she reiterated in her book, that if you have the opportunity to talk to these masters or these guides, what are the questions that you're asking? And so
Yes.
similarly, like in any context, the questions that you ask, it's so important and it's not talked about enough. So
And
I'm so glad
it's
you brought it
not,
up.
and it's not complicated once you are taught it. And so, Ed Milet, he says, the quality of your life will be based on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. Everyone's kind of said this. All the great thinkers have said it in one form or another. But
Hmm.
this is even how we become our highest self. It's the questions we ask ourselves. And so it's learning. Oprah titled a book, something that I've been saying for years, because it's just the greatest question. And it's, what happened to you? And the thing about that question, there's versions of it, but it's like this. My greatest question is, why does it make perfect sense? This is happening for you. Why does it make perfect sense you're stuck with this? Why does it make perfect sense you're doing behaviors that maybe aren't in your best good? Why does it make perfect sense that, and we can always get there, because when we get there, that's wisdom. Oh, it makes perfect sense. I'm doing that because, and sometimes even if we don't know the answer of where we learned it along the way, we can just close the loop by saying, I must have learned that somewhere because I didn't come out of the womb having these thoughts about anything. So I don't know exactly why it makes perfect sense, but I must have learned it somewhere. So that way I can elevate my level of consciousness. So I can just close the loop and say, I'm not quite sure, but it makes perfect sense. And here I go. But the greatest shifts I've ever had, speaking about what you were saying, is through those metaphysical, spiritual sessions I've had with my healers, where I go and meet my higher self. And I realized she knows the way. She knows the answers. She's the wisest person. She's probably should be the board of my directors. She knows all the answers. But for many years, I didn't learn to consult with her. And so I
Hmm.
teach people how they are their own guru, really, which is,
Completely.
in a
Yes.
profession like you and I have, where in theory, people would need us for the rest of our life. I say, no, no, no. My job is to help you understand how to ask yourself the right questions so that you can listen to yourself, that God is your guru, that your higher self is your guru, and get you graduated from needing that forever. Like that you have an internal compass, but it's about the questions you ask. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And I obviously in my journeys may not be obvious, but I learned how to heal people, right? I learned how to heal people. I learned how to heal myself. I learned how to do healings. I learned how to read for people as a psychic. I used to read for a psychic hotline. It's a fun fact I don't talk about very often, but that used to be me. And one of the things, especially in getting into the coaching, was that I realized how many codependent bonds happen between like healer or therapist and the client. And that codependent bond, it's like it keeps you in a loop. And that's where, there's so many brilliant exercises and work that's been done getting out of just kind of the realm of talk therapy, of tapping and EMDR and all sorts of other types of ways to get into that subconscious connection. And I love that you brought in the higher self as well. It's actually why I have this tattoo. I had a vision of my future self, higher self. I would say I would use those synonymously. That she knows the way. She knows the answers. She knows where I stubbed my toe. She knows where, and also connecting with my grandmother aspect, connecting with myself at, on my deathbed. What choice did I make here? Who did I connect with at this point? She knows. She knows it all. She knows the whole thing. So to oh my gosh, I just love where we've gone with this so far already. It's brilliant.
I have a tattoo. It says, because of you. And that's my higher self. I keep it right there so I can be like, okay, what are we doing here? Because she
Oh
knows
my gosh,
I
that's
just
why
got
I have mine on my hand too.
it's here. Like, I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, I just got chills. I
I know, me
love
too.
this. Love this. So I want to ask specifically about the questions. I want to dive into this more again because it is so important. And this may be the second time I've had a conversation with somebody about the importance of questions. One significant healing I had, I was with a few partners that lied to me a lot. I've been lied to a lot in my life. It was kind of like a childhood theme. So I stopped asking questions. And I stopped asking questions because I didn't want to be lied to. And so I learned to trust my internal compass, and I learned to trust my intuition more than I learned to trust other people. And there's been some healing around the trust issues that were developed in that way. But when you're in a space where you're recognizing like the interpersonal thing, right? Because that interpersonal thing within myself absolutely can influence business relationships. And that's one of the things that I focus on with business, is that I don't believe that people have business problems. I believe that people have personal problems that are leaking into their business and that
Amen.
they're not really addressing. So when we go deep into it and deep in the topic that we're discussing around the metaphysical component, the higher self component, the interpersonal relationship component, and that deep value of self-trust. I guess my question for you on that is just simply, can you elaborate on that? Can you speak to what your perspective is in that?
Absolutely. I have so much to say here, but I'll start with, I call it honor the nudge. So I love a good title. I love a good branding for a process so that people can remember. It's just how my brain works. I love a good acronym that I make up in the shower with God, but this is what I call honor the nudge. And the nudge is from your higher self, the knowingness from God, from your higher power. But it's very simple. But the first step is stop, pause, and breathe. So just pause, breathe. The second step is go down and take a look around. That's what I call it. It's like sink down a little bit underneath the surface and then listen. Third step is, what would you have me do? What would you have me be? Who would you have me be? What would you have me know? And then the fourth step is do what you're told. And then the fifth step is repeat forever. Okay, I'll say it again. Pause and breathe. Drop down and take a look around. Ask, what would you have me know? Do what it tells you to do and repeat forever. And it's in the doing what it tells you to do where you will develop the trust in yourself. How do you become trustworthy to yourself? You keep the promises you make to yourself. How do you do that? You take little tiny promises and you keep them to yourself and you trust yourself. It's not a mind job. You behave your way into different thinking. So we know from psychology, you're going to behave your way into different thinking versus think your way into different behaving. It's fascinating. If I were to ask you, Sitara, how do you want to get really good at pickleball? Because who doesn't want to get good at pickleball? I mean, hello, you and I are going to be adorable on the pickleball court. Okay. Well, you would say, you would practice pickleball. Well, how do you become more intuitive? How do you become more patient? How to become more faithful to your dream? Oh, you practice intuition, you practice patience, and you practice faithfulness. Like they're the same exact concepts. Now, to be your higher self. So I've named my company The Higher Life, which is high performance, fueled by, inspired by your higher power, because I think we're leaving out the conversation of the fact that we're spiritual beings. Like, why are we leaving this out? Why has psychology left this out? Why has the self-help industry left this out? When everyone really believes in something, they're just not talking about it. So that's, of course, happening on the planet. But here's the 5 questions to ask. And the acronym for this is AMPed. It's an old acronym. It just kind of means supercharge your success. It used to mean that for me, but now it just means like elevate everything in your life. So it's just an easy acronym. But A is you're going to activate your higher self. So the question that goes with that is, who do I value being? When I walk home and, when I come home at night and I open the door and my husband's on the other side, I'm asking myself, what kind of wife do I value being? When I get on this podcast, what kind of interview do I value giving? Intention. It's just intentional living. It's the biggest factor for successful, happy people. Okay. A, activate your highest self. Who do I value being? M, motivated. The question to this is very simple and it might blow your mind. Who am I serving greatly? If Sitara came to me and said, I'm just not feeling motivated, I just don't feel like it, I would say, you have forgotten your mission. So motivation doesn't just come to people, the lucky ones, you're so motivated. No, I am so crystal clear, focused on my vision. I run everything by my dream first. I say, does this get me closer to setting the captives free? Does this get me closer to it? That's my mission. P is productive. Now, productivity, again, has nothing to do with hours logged. Productivity is, are you moving the needle forward on your dream or mission or purpose on this planet? And I run all my decisions by that first, and it makes me look really productive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Energized. Are you taking care of your physical body? Are you drinking and sleeping? I say drink your way to success and sleep your way to the top. I mean, it's just a great way to remember it, right? Like
Drinking water,
seriously,
right?
right? And then D is disciplined. And the questions go with every single letter. D is disciplined. Are you keeping the promises you're making to yourself? How do you become a disciplined person? You do disciplined things. So the questions are the answers. Your higher self is like always just sitting here by you. And the problem is you're not consulting with her or him.
Mm-hmm.
They're always with you. Say, what would you have me know right now? What would you have me, who would you have me be? What would you have me order off the menu? Would you have me say yes to this mentor or no to this mentor? And then you listen. I trust myself inherently. It doesn't mean I'm not going to make decisions that end up in a way I don't want them to make. It means I have no regret of like trusting myself and my higher power. And it means it's really fun to co-create all day long. People know I'm like, I just got the best idea in the shower. It's because they know my channel is open. I'm open. And I learned how to do all this from people like Sitara in the world that are healers. I learned how to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love this. Thank you so much for sharing that. And that's really also to just kind of jump on that tail is when it comes to the healing aspect. Because as I mentioned, there's a codependent bond, right? But if we can, and this is where I've geared my teachings in the last, I'd say 8 years, has been more around how can I teach you and show you how to heal yourself? How can I teach you and show you how to connect to your higher self? In the beginning, my readings were okay, it's my higher self connecting to your higher self so that I can share with you the messages that you're not receiving, even though it's your higher self. And so I have a program that's called Embody Your Higher Self. So it's shifting that from having a conversation with a part of you that is outside and being aware that that consciousness and that frequency becomes a part of your full embodiment.
Mm.
And the awareness of that you are a multidimensional being inside of your full body and that it is not a separate kind of entity or aspect, it brings this awareness into that center of heart space. And I'm with you on this, that psychology left out spirituality. When I was getting my degree in psychology, the explanations that they had for schizophrenia and multiple personality disorder, they did not cut it for me at all, because I was like, well, this is obviously a spiritual ailment, but this was before I'd taken any courses or anything at all. I just inherently knew that there was an energetic and I would say war being going on between a person and some other entities that were influencing them. And it was actually the reason that I decided to go to a psychology or a psychic school rather than getting my graduate degree, which was the path that I was on, because of how much traditional psychology didn't acknowledge what they couldn't measure with the instruments,
Yep.
and leaving out memory as well. If you can't prove it, it doesn't exist. It was such a huge quandary for me. And simultaneously, there are steps in the human evolution. And so there's some points where, if I start talking about higher self or you start talking about higher self, people will just start shutting down. And there's a part of that person individually that isn't quite able to comprehend that. And I remember driving to my first music festival with a few friends, and they were talking about consciousness. I could not hear it. I remember it so vividly. I was like, this is too deep. I don't want to talk about it. Where's the eject button? How do we get out of the car? I just want to go start dancing.
Yep.
Like, it just was not there. And so I want to bring that in to honor each and every single step of that journey and that evolution of becoming aware of how we are growing exponentially on the leading edge of consciousness, which are the conversations that we are here to have today. And questions are a huge element of that. You also touched on something that I also feel is really important in acknowledging, who do I want to be when I walk through this door? And that's one of those things that I do think people get kind of mixed up on is, well, that's just me. The commitment to, well, that's just me. Well, that's just me. Well, that's just me. Well, if there's a personality problem that's actually destructive in your life, you have the ability to change it. So I'd love to hear you speak on that identity shift and the identity work that can really change somebody's life exponentially.
It it did mine. Thank you for the tee up.
Mhm.
If you had met me back in graduate school, you would have seen a terrified, perfectionistic, socially anxious, clinically depressed, type A, OCD personality. I have none of those. Okay. I am the happiest person I know. I am obnoxiously happy. I think I'm making up for lost time, but but I found the way. And my mission is to teach people the way. And when people suicide like Twitch, Sitara, I just think he never was told he didn't know what we know. And so it gives me goosebumps of the calling over our lives. It's just a matter of people didn't know what they didn't know. Yeah, definitely. Psychology is very rigid in your personality construct remains the same. And it's just not true. It's just not true. And of course the psychology research, they're catching up to, spiritual knowings of the last thousands and thousands of years. But so thank God they are, and thank God we have science, and it's evolving to show us that there are these other, there are so many facets of us, and they're not mutually exclusive. It's both and. It's your brain is such a beautiful, beautiful thing. It can problem solve. It can think of ideas. It can observe. It can change your level of consciousness, right? And then your body's so amazing. Then the spiritual piece. But yes, the greatest leaders, I always say, I don't want to teach you what to do or what to say. I want to teach you how to think. And someone once said that to me, a client. She said, I love what you've created for yourself, but I don't want to be Dr. Erin, but I want to climb my own mountain. And I'm glad that you climbed yours and that you're at the top of yours, but I want to climb mine. And that is the whole, let's not be codependent as healers let's help them make their journey and be like the Sherpa to your higher life, right? But people don't want to climb the mountain. Robin Sharma says the saddest thing that could ever happen to a human being is to climb a mountain, to get at the top and to say, and realize I've been climbing the wrong mountain. Your mountain of majesty, your mountain of significance, the mountain that you're supposed to climb in this lifetime. So I've been sneaking spiritual stuff in my psychology for years. Yeah. I was the person 20 years ago saying, I just want to ask, do you have any religious or spiritual beliefs that are going to help us here? And they'd be like, we could talk about this here. Oh, baby, we are going to talk about it here. And we're going to supercharge our therapy success. And it's why people would generally see me for 6 to 12 sessions, not years, because we had a superpower. Our higher power is our superpower. Why would we leave that at the door? But psychology didn't know better. So we're just leaving. Corporate America hasn't known better. Why would we clock in and clock out our soul? Hello? The world needs you to clock in your soul
100% of the time. Yes. Again, thank you for speaking to that, because that was the biggest deterrent for me of getting into spirituality, or I'm sorry, to get into psychology, was because in the conversations of the parameters that I had heard, was that those whispers weren't allowed. And so how do you see the world of psychology changing today, especially with the coaching industry and the opportunities that are here now for entrepreneurs?
I might seem smarter than I am with this answer. I'm not, don't be fooled. I'm not this smart, but I actually I think what's happening is actually a fall of the patriarchy, a fall of religion, and that's trickling down into all of our professions and our occupations, saying, wait a minute. No. We're not excluding things. We're including things. I mean, the only reason we were told not to believe in all that stuff is because we needed the church to get into heaven. So we needed to go to church on Sunday so that we could access heaven. But what if heaven is us? What if, and all the greats say it, right? What if the divinity is us and we are divinity? That's blasphemy. Go read Happier Than God. Like the guy that wrote Conversations with God, that's blasphemy. But it's not anymore. It's entering the conversation, and we're saying we're not having it. We're not having it anymore. So I think that's it. All the cultural stuff is moving into it, as well as the science and Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. Like that's changing it all too. But it's like, oh, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Like, oh yeah, of course we are. Why did we cut that out of the equation? Why did we cut our bodies out of the equation? I mean, that's misogyny. That's the patriarchy. Why were we told the flesh, the flesh doesn't know the way? That was religion. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but in a nutshell, that's what I think happened. And now we're like, wait, what happens if the world is full of people that are healed, healthy, don't need to be fixed? Oh, we don't need your capitalism for anything. Oh, well, that's going to change the world. Like I said, I'm not really this smart, but this is what I'm noticing. This is what I'm noticing. This is what I think.
I appreciate your boldness more than you know, and I feel that, and the link that it's having to us on an individual level, I think is testament to that we are the embodiment of that divinity in human form. I definitely have not said this on a public platform. I've talked about this with
No,
my
we're like saying
students.
it.
But so my brand is called Monad. Monad is the spark of divine consciousness, the indivisible spark of divine consciousness that is at the core of all living beings. That is the frequency that is source consciousness that exists at the center of each and every single one of us. So I believe that we are all transmitting energy and information to source, and that we are receiving the information from source as we are constantly evolving and constantly changing, which means that the frequency of source consciousness in and of itself is an ever evolving. Living is, I would say, an incorrect term, but that's why sometimes English can fail the concept of the translation of what these things are. But that feedback continues to go back and forth. And so
Yes.
as source is evolving and as we are evolving on a planetary level, that's also where I feel that the inspiration of the entrepreneurial development, as well as the inspiration that I had to create this summit, which is connecting the entrepreneurial development, the leading edge of human consciousness, that interpersonal connection to source energy, God, however you see that, universe, whatever word. To me, it's one in the same, in the sense that we know that there is a higher power that connects us in all ways. Now, with that, the leading edge of the entrepreneurial and human development, I see a very, very strong correlation with what's going on with the leading edge of tech and how we are stepping into having resources, wildly abundant resources at our fingertips that speed up the evolution of human consciousness because of how fast paced we've been able to also adapt to the amount of information we're receiving. And that to me is like the whole part of the human evolution. But where these resources, what I want to encourage through this entire summit is that these resources, these digital resources, are not something to be afraid of and not something to push away. Rather, it is, how can we be early adopters? How can we step in front of the wave? How can we, take full advantage of being able to be deeply integrated in our hearts, our heart-centered awareness, to have that connection to our higher self that opens the playing field to these resources that serves humanity in a great capacity.
I want everyone that's listening to pause, go back and listen to what she just said, because she just asked the questions that change the game. The way that you look at things changes the way you look, the things you look at, or whatever, the saying. Sitara just gave you the questions to ask. How can I best use this technology? I wonder. So the greatest quality of all successful people, the wealthiest, most happy, successful people on the planet, is curiosity. Start wondering in the positive. I call it the wondering technique. I mean, it's just wondering, but do what she just did. I wonder how I can use this for significance. I wonder how I can bless people because of this technology. I wonder how I can use this force for good. I wonder why it makes perfect sense. I was born at this exact time with this exact technology. I wonder why. I wonder in the positive. And you will go and find those beautiful answers, because you will go find what you're looking for. So be very careful about the questions you're asking, but go back and listen to everything she just said, because those were the questions.
Yes, I would double that. I'm getting chills through this whole conversation. And yeah, so this is just lovely. This is just great. I'm taking a moment to sit in the gratitude of what I'm feeling, not just for you and I, but I feel that expansion opening in the field. And yeah, love this inspiration. So, is there something? I know we kind of touched on it a little bit before, but is there something or an exercise that you would like to lead us through, even for a couple minutes, that would help to encourage? And not just help to encourage, but really create a memorable, single or two use tool for us to be able to open to that space of clarity in a moment's notice. Because
Oh, yes, yes,
that's the
yes.
key, is that moment's notice, not taking 3 days to sleep on something. How can we make a decision quickly that we know is aligned to where it is that we want to be?
This is going to blow your mind. This is the secret sauce. You're not going to have to look any further. It's kind of related to identity work. It's almost the tattoo I got, but I got this one instead. But what I'm going to teach you is right here. This says fit, free, and aligned. This is what I'm going to have you do. I want you all to pick out get a piece of paper out, a pen. And I want you to just think of you being your highest self. Whatever that means to you, your most wise, truest, embodied, free, passionate, beautiful self, your highest self. And I want you to just brainstorm all the words that would describe you being your highest self. Just put them all on paper. I might be loving. I might be present. I might be connected. I might be aligned. I would be fit. I would be, right? All the words. And then do something that's almost impossible, but you can do hard things. It's just pick the top 3. Okay. And you can choose your words and then change them tomorrow if you want, but choose your 3 words. My 3 are fit, free, and aligned. And I know what those mean for me, but they are the GPS of your life. And then over time, you're going to learn to practice intentionally, like calibrating to those words all throughout your day. The easiest way I can think of doing it, so I'm a practical psychologist. I love to teach you how to actually change your life. Okay. So this is what you're going to do every time you transition in your day. The second you get off this podcast, the next time you get in your car, the next time you get off a meeting, the next time, every transition, you'll have like 12 to 16 of them because that's how many hours you're awake. Okay. Every time you transition, you're going to say, I am blank, blank, blank. What is my intention? I am blank, blank, blank. How can I be that? You run all of your decisions. Is that fit, free, and aligned? If I eat this whole roll of Oreos, is that fit? No, it's not. Okay. I want to eat the Oreos, but I'm not going to eat the Oreos because when I eat the Oreos, I'm not spiritually fit. It disconnects me from God. Okay. I know it's a big deal for an Oreo, but that's how it works for me. Okay. I wish fit was not my word. That would be lovely, but it is. Okay. So anyways, you run it by and all of a sudden your life will become this. It will become there will be no inside outside you. There will be no 2 versions of you. You will be living in integrity. And the way to happiness is integrity. It's very simple. The way to self-esteem is live in integrity. It's very simple. It will heal your distress. Your happiness will be grounded. Your happiness will not be swayed by the circumstances of your life. You will have human emotions, but your happiness will stay. I am pummeled from time to time because I'm a human being. That does not sway my happiness. It does not sway who I am as Erin. I am the same person. I am spiritually grounded in that. Okay. So that's the greatest exercise you could do. Sometimes you can change your words for different roles you play in life if you want. If you're a mother, what kind of mother do I value being? What are the 3 words? Okay, my husband's coming home. What kind of wife do I value being? Okay, I'm an entrepreneur right now. What kind of entrepreneur do I value being? Okay, I'm having a coffee date with Sitara and we're maybe going to do business together. What kind of power partner do I value being? Okay, I'm playing. What kind of caretaker of my physical body do I value being? You might find different words, but just start with your first 3. It's your spiritual GPS. It will take you everywhere you want to go.
I love
I hope
that.
that was so valuable.
Yes, absolutely. I definitely had three words that came to me for sure. One of them being precise. Precision for me is so important about being precise in communication, precise in elegance, precise in that focus, that, that like hitting the target right on the bullseye, and also waiting for the right time to hit the target. Taking, there's been a lot of my life that has been chaotic, or working off of a wound, or creating out of lack, or fill in the blank of where things just like don't line up. And I would call it maturity. I for sure would call it maturity, of having learned the lessons to sit and know when it is time, like when there is a timing of precision to strike, and not forcing, and not necessarily being in a place of inaction, but allowing that to come in. There was
I would venture what you're calling maturity is the same as wisdom.
yes,
Information, you've chosen to contemplate the information, the data collected, you've chosen to contemplate, and through the contemplation, which is spiritual work, you come out wiser.
absolutely.
And you're living in what's called creative mind instead of reactive mind. Very different words, same letters. Fascinating. You're wanting, and so look at, you've been doing it already. That's why
Absolutely.
look at your life, and we would say, how does she make that all happen? And how does she do that? Everything she touches turns to gold. It's not an accident. She's intentionally bringing that energy to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, precision. Someone dropped that in my
And
field like 2 years
what a
ago.
gift. I mean, to have
Mhm.
precision and then to teach people how to have precision, clarity. Beautiful.
Yes. And similar to what you're saying, the fit, free, and aligned, it comes also through compound interest of day to day with every single choice. That's what I tell people, especially when we're talking about timelines. Timelines on a micro scale are choices. That's
Mm,
exactly what they are. Let's just debunk the whole mystery around timelines. Timelines in the absolute now and present have everything to do with choices. Do I eat a Pop Tart this morning for breakfast, or do I eat a watermelon? That choice, it seems small, it seems menial, but are you then going to feel different through the rest of the day, not having this high sugar spike and low sugar drop? And then would, like, let's say you or I did that this morning, would that then change the conversation that we're having today if you're showing up in a low energy or I'm showing up in a low energy? It absolutely does. So every single choice we have, again, it's like it comes down to that precision, the precision of being fit, the alignment of choosing to be precise and fit. Like these words, right? They all hold the frequency and a meaning, they come together, but there's a brilliance that comes from deep within around all of it. And you started that question off right in the beginning of the connection to the higher self, whether it's embodied or the awareness is there, or whatever, kind of. I've had, I would say, like 5 or 6 significant awakenings of the connection to my higher self, and what that higher self truly is, and also having to do with the name shift from Samantha to Sitara. That shift has been so aligned in the awareness of my higher self, but the identity shift that had to change with the name change,
yes.
monumental.
Yes.
Absolutely monumental. What I realized is the label even that we give ourselves as a name, and this was something I never even considered, never crossed my mind, but I realized that the label of the energy that was stored in the name Samantha was no longer my identity, and no longer aligned with the woman that I knew that I came into this world to be and to become. And so in shifting that, I didn't fully align with Sitara in the beginning. And when that shift started happening, there was about a 2-month window period where I was walking around in experiencing the world without the attachment to any form of a name. And
Mhm.
that identity shift, it was so powerful,
Oh,
so completely powerful. And in Western cultures, it's not common to do a name shift. In most Eastern philosophies, and in Hinduism and all sorts of other type of spiritual practices, it is wildly common to do a name shift because of that shift, because of the loss of the identity that's associated with the wounding and the trauma and the it's just me and the like that thing that keeps us complacent and kind of sitting in a, you know, in a lazy river, we'll say.
That's so fascinating. I'll just add that
Please
the
do.
most significant healer that has changed my life changed her name. Yeah, that's fascinating.
It was I sat with it for 9 months because I was like, I don't want to be one of those people that moves to Bali and changes their name. And like I had this whole judgment, this
Come
whole
on, that's what the cool
journey.
kids are doing.
Oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, and at each stage of my awakening, I'll say this, right? Yes, was I born with a heightened state of awareness? 100%. I was born as a medium. I was born seeing spirits. I was also born in white middle class suburbia America. I went to public school system. You know, I was indoctrinated with the same programming, the same systemic stuff, and still there was just a part of me, a deeper part that knew there was a deeper yearning, that knew there was something bigger, that knew inside of me, I could feel the power that's inside of me ever since I was a little girl, and I didn't know what to do with it.
Yep.
I drank it away. I drugged it away. I tried to ignore its presence. I tried to ignore its existence. I tried to make myself small. I tried to pretend it didn't exist. Man, I tried to put myself into all sorts of boxes that just were not aligned. They were not a part of who I am and who I, again, know that I'm here to become. And I keep feeling this my own grandmother essence. Maybe you're feeling yours too, but that wisdom of the entirety of your life lived and being able to connect with that part of your consciousness that guides the way through every single gateway. And so why my whole thing is like, sure, could I do something easier in this world? 100%. Could I choose an easier path for myself? Yes, I could. I just want to see what I'm made of. I want to see what I came into this world to do. And I feel that so strongly in you too. And even just connecting to you, different people bring out different things. I feel that inspiration in this conversation coming through me. So I want to acknowledge that and say thank you for your presence, because I know you said your superpower was questions, but I know that your superpower is bringing the brilliance out in other people where they haven't been seeing it for themselves either. And you do it
Oh, that
so
is my
eloquently.
superpower. Thank
It
you.
really is. You do it so eloquently and you do it so gracefully in a way that's not confronting either. Sometimes when people see their power, it's very confronting. And I feel that you have an eloquence of going about it that makes it fun and invigorating and inspiring and like, of course, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I find that part inside of myself rather than it being like this whole spiritual journey and commitment and huge to do? It's that it can be fun. We can laugh our way to the top of the mountain. We can enjoy it the whole way. We can wear whatever we want. We don't have to play a certain persona. And the whole thing, it's like, if it feels good to you and it feels aligned and it feels like it is serving your highest alignment, go for it.
Amen.
And you are just a radiant, shining example of that. I feel it through and through. So thank you so
I
much.
received that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My
You're welcome.
goodness.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us before we go ahead and close out this conversation?
This could be opening up a big box, but I want
Go for it.
our listeners to entertain the idea that you could break up with bettering or fixing yourself and instead kind of fall in love with this idea of how can I just reveal more of myself? And how can I know? And I know. It's like
It's so good.
I've
So
recently
good.
broke up with the self-help culture. I feel like I've lost like the worst boyfriend that I ever like. I don't know. I didn't know I was in a bad relationship. Like I just want you to imagine that your work here is to heal, which just means restore all the beautiful pieces of you that fragmented off. Like there's nothing to grow, because you're here to grow. Because like Sitara so beautifully said, growth is like just more consciousness of the divine and then adding that in. And then, ooh, now I get to move in this way. Like I wasn't this person 8 years ago and I won't be this person 8 years from now. I'll be a different version of her that will be wiser and will know because I'm going to ask the questions. And so just try on, what if there were nothing wrong with me? What if there was nothing to prove? What would I do? How would I be if I weren't fixing something? So believe you, this self-help junkie, psychologist, personal growth guru never thought I would get there. And I think it's time to break up.
I like kudos to that. And there is something that I want to add to this. You can get addicted to healing for sure, and you can get addicted to the breakthrough for sure. One thing that I knew, because I had a full-blown life implosion, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. My entire life fell apart in 2019, right before the pandemic, and that's what landed me in Bali. I could have come home. I could have, just gone back to the roots that I knew, but there was something deep inside of me and I could feel it. I could see it clairvoyantly, but there was something deep inside of me that I knew needed, not wanted to, needed to emerge without the reflections of the people who knew me, without the reflections in the mirror of the people who identified with me in a particular type of way. And I really believe that that is the only way that within me this emergence could come through. And the awareness of, okay, this is what embodiment, okay, the kingdom of heaven is within, like those pieces. It just felt so important, like it felt so important for me to do. And so as you're, really hitting the nail on the head of something that I think is so monumentally important, it's that it isn't the you need to heal to fix yourself. It is like, how can we let more light in? How can we let more light in? How can that piece be more free? How can that piece within us be more expressive? How can that piece within us, like you're saying with corporate, we're not checking the soul at the door anymore. It's just, that's not what's happening. How can we express more effortlessly?
Listen to the questions she's asking people.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Dr. Erin, I am so honored to have this conversation with you, and I'm so honored to be able to share this with the people who I know. I can feel it in my heart. I can feel the shifts that are happening with the listeners already. That's what I love about the quantum field, is that, like, yes, are we recording this? Yes. Are people listening to it at a different time? Yes. Can I feel the presence of them in my own heart? 100%.
I didn't know that's what I was feeling. That makes perfect sense. That's what that was.
Yes, absolutely. So with that, if you are listening and you'd like to connect with Dr. Erin, we have links and a freebie in the description below. Please do not miss this opportunity. Connect, get on her email list, find her on social media, and just stay connected. We know that there is big movements happening. We know that connections happen in such synchronistic and divine ways. We're all here for a very specific reason. And I know that there is a garden of wealth in so many different ways that is arising for us by being here and for showing up. So yes, I can only continue to repeat how honored I am to have this conversation with you. I'm feeling moved and changed. I know our listeners are. I'm absolutely inspired by you, and maybe excited to play some pickleball. I don't know. I've never played, so
I
that'd be a
just
new
threw it out
thing.
there in the universe, but I'm pretty good at creating what I want. So bless you, everybody.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Have a beautiful and blessed day, and we will connect again soon.